Greetings, everyone. It's Shadow Leon once again. And, don't mind that noise in the background. As you can see, my older brother's playing GTA 5 and whatnot. So, I'd like to talk about a movie called The Specialist. You know, it's not exactly a terrible movie, and it's not a good film either. It's that movie you watched one day and said that this movie isn't terrible, it's not the worst thing ever, and it's definitely not the best thing ever. It's just how you say average. And that's exactly what The Specialist is. Nothing but an average movie. So you ask, what is the plot for this movie about? The plot centers around, should I say, a woman who enlists the help of a mercenary on a mission to avenge the loss of her family and whatnot. But of course, said mercenary must not only execute his plan, but at the same time has to deal with an old friend turned enemy of his and whatnot. So that's the plot of our movie and whatnot. I know that this movie has gotten plenty of negative reviews and whatnot regarding. Yeah, it has gotten plenty of negative reviews and all that stuff. Like I said before, it's definitely not one of Sylvester Stallone's best movies, but considering the crap he's acted in recent years, like Expendables 3, those shitty Escape Plan sequels, Backtrace, Rambo 5, and not to even mention the god awful as hell Expend4bles, this movie is a masterpiece compared to any of the crap Stallone has been in recent years. And also Spy Kids 3D, because Spy Kids 3D sucks. So, let me get on to what I actually liked about this film and whatnot. So, just give me a minute here. So anyway, I know that this movie I know that people have given Sly for his performance and whatnot in this movie, but I personally think that Sly actually gives a good performance for what he does. It's not one of his best performances, but I think Ray Quick is actually a pretty interesting and endearing protagonist and whatnot. Because of all the free Mad Bomber films that came the same year between Speed, The Specialist, and this movie, this one stands out from the other three because unlike, Speed and Blown Away, the bomber in this movie is actually a good guy and whatnot. So that was an interesting change of pace. And yeah, like I said, Stallone actually nails the role pretty well and whatnot. And then you have James Woods as the villainous Ned Trent. And now James Woods is really enjoying himself as the bad guy and whatnot. And I really do love how he's just having a blast with it and whatnot. Especially when he goes, "Fuck you, Ray, fuck you, you killed, it was your bombs. You were the one who did everything. Shut up, you didn't see anything, just shut up." Typical James Woods. No wonder he got the role of Hades. I mean, it's James Woods after all. Everyone loves James Woods. And Sharon Stone gives somewhat of a good performance as the sexy May Monroe and whatnot. I don't understand why the Razzie Awards gave Sharon Stone a Razzie for Worst Actress. She's actually pretty good in the role and brings the character to life. It was also nice to see Eric Roberts in the film and whatnot, and I really did love the late Rod Steiger's performance. So anyway, it's really funny how I discovered that the movie was directed by Luis Loza. For those of you people who don't know who Luis Loza is, he is basically the guy who directed the tense action thriller film Being Sniper with Tom Berenger and Billy Zane, and he would later go on to direct his masterpiece called Anaconda with Ice Cube, Jennifer Lopez, Jon Voight, Eric Stoltz, the list goes on. But out of all the films he directed, I would say Anaconda is his best movie. But I will talk about that movie in the near future and whatnot. I also did love the Miami setting this movie took place in, because after all, we don't get many movies like this set in Miami and whatnot. And I did love the explosion set pieces and whatnot. The explosion set pieces for this movie are well done and everything. They mostly relied on practical effects and whatnot. And of course, John Barry's music is pretty good for what it is. Since this was the same guy who did the scores for some of the other James Bond films and whatnot. Although, I have this one criticism of his score. There's a point in time in where the movie's music sounds like James Bond music. It basically goes like ta 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 ta. And I'm like, yes, John Barry, I know you composed the scores for several James Bond films, but did you really have to reference it in this movie? And if you were to ask another bad quality, before I get into bad qualities, I also love the ending song called Turn the Beat Around. And I will admit that is a pretty great song for what it is. And once again, don't mind that background noise. It's just my older brother being frustrated of playing GTA 4. So ignore that. And on top of that, let's get on to the bad qualities of this movie. I think that the pacing kinda drags in some places and whatnot. And the movie has some really weird editing, like there is this scene where Sharon Stone and Sylvester Stallone with each other, and it feels like I'm watching like a 90s music video or something from the way that music is playing in the background. And then, of course, we also have this shower scene with the two together and everything, where the two are literally banging each other and whatnot. Did we really need to include a sex scene in this movie? Yes, I know Sharon Stone was pretty hot, but Sylvester Stallone is not the right guy. I just don't know why Hollywood thought that casting action stars in erotic thriller movies was a good idea. It was around this time the erotic thriller movie genre was at its peak. For those of you people who may not know, the only erotic thriller movies I like are Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct, and maybe to an extent Species Unbound. And it's really funny how I previously read that this originally started off as a movie with Steven Seagal and everything. Yes, this was originally going to be a Steven Seagal movie, but unfortunately that never happened because, Steven Seagal quit the project due to creative differences. So, yeah. And another bad quality I have is that the movie can sometimes get over the top to the point that it borderlines on cartoon antics. You literally have this scene where Eric Roberts gets a cop disguised as an explosive disguised as a cop. And then the explosion goes off, and for some odd reason, Sharon Stone doesn't get hit by the blast. Just wow. And then, instead of us getting a final fight between James Woods and Sylvester Stallone, I know this was supposed to be his big catharsis factor, but instead this is what happens. James Woods stands on the explosive as Stallone says, "Guess what, man? No failsafe." And then James Woods goes flying like this and this. Seriously, that looks like a death scene out of a Looney Tunes segment than something you would see in should I say, an action movie and whatnot. And the screenplay is kind of fairly weak and whatnot. I really wish they could have done more tweaks with the screenplay and all that stuff. Because I want to quote the late Roger Ebert. I remember watching the late Roger Ebert's video of this movie, and he said it best. The movie could have been better if you just toned down on the erotic stuff, reduce Sharon Stone's screen time, and maybe have the movie just be about Sylvester Stallone and James Woods. And maybe you could have had a final fight between the two. Or better yet, do this. How about have Woods be the hero and Stallone be the villain? How awesome would it have been, seeing Stallone play a bad guy? And once again, like with future movie assassins, Yes, I will review Assassins in the near future. While I do admit that Assassins is the better executed movie than this film, once again, like this movie, Stallone wasted a huge golden opportunity of playing a villain, because how awesome would it have been in Assassins to see Banderas as the hero and Stallone being the villain? And also, like with this movie, they should have reduced on the Julianne Moore scenes in that other movie. So yeah, that's what I personally think of how to make the movie better. In conclusion, I personally don't think that this is a bad movie. I personally think that people were way too harsh on it and whatnot. And like I said before, come on, critics. This isn't even the worst film Stallone has acted in, considering what he's been acting in for the last 10 years now. Heck, I'd even rather watch this film any day of the week over that god awful Formula One movie he acted in and Spy Kids 3D. Yes, I'm dead serious. I would rather watch this movie than Spy Kids 3D. So yeah, that was my review for The Specialist and whatnot. If you're wondering what I'm gonna give this movie, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. So what are your thoughts on The Specialist and whatnot? Let me know in the comments down below, and thanks for watching as always. Shadow Leon 659 signing out.